This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Summer sizzle. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast.
If you've been waiting for the warmer temperatures, here it is.
Temperatures will tickle 90 degrees in many places this afternoon. Chance of rain tomorrow. Kev's got that weekend forecast coming up. The May unemployment report went public today, and it was better than expected. Employers adding 172,000 jobs to their payrolls last month. That's about twice as many as economists were anticipating. The overall jobless rate for the month of May remains steady at 4.3%. President Trump's $70 billion with a B dollar immigration enforcement bill has passed the U.S. Senate. It did so overnight. This measure funds ICE and Border Patrol for the next 3 years. It now heads to the U.S. House. Senate Majority Leader John Thune.
We have a specific mission and purpose here, and that is to ensure that these important agencies of our government that have vital functions when it comes to our homeland and national security are funded.
Meantime, the U.S. House has just approved a $1.3 billion aid package for war-torn Ukraine, which has been fighting a Russian invasion for more than 4 years now. This measure includes new sanctions against Moscow. President Trump is urging patience on the part of the American people when it comes to the 3-month-old war with Iran. The commander-in-chief notes that World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and Korea took much longer.
When you look at hundreds of thousands of soldiers were killed in these various wars. They lasted many, many years. We're in there for a few months, and what we've done is amazing.
The president says peace talks with Iran hinge on the Islamic Republic giving up its enriched uranium, the stuff of which nuclear bombs are made. Hezbollah rejecting a new ceasefire deal between Israel and Lebanon. Iran's largest terror proxy wants Israeli troops out of Lebanon first. Here's NBC's Richard Engel.
Israel agreed to stop shooting if Hezbollah stopped fighting and left southern Lebanon. Hezbollah says it will stop fighting if Israeli troops pull out of Lebanon, which Israel says it won't do.
Hezbollah's fired over 8,000 drones and missiles into Israel since an April 16th ceasefire was announced. The Trump administration's pumping $700 million into the U.S. coal industry.
$425 million used to keep 13 different coal plants operational. Another $185 million used to build 2 new coal plants in Alaska and West Virginia. The first opening of plants in 13 years. Now, it will also help restart a closed plant in Maryland. $75 million will fund the opening of a new coal export terminal in Oakland, California.
That's Edward Lawrence with Fox Business. A pest that is devastating to livestock has been found in a 3-week-old calf in South Texas. The New World screwworm is a parasitic flesh-eating fly.
This pest does not represent any sort of challenge to our food safety, and that's a really important message.
Agriculture Secretary Brooke Collins.
This is a flesh-eating pest that lands on mammals, on livestock, on deer, etc. It is not a threat to our food supply. We have beaten screwworm before, and we will do so again.
The New World screwworm was thought to be eradicated in this country 60 years ago. The last confirmed animal case in the States was in the Florida Keys a decade ago. The scandals are piling high now for Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner, the 41-year-old war vet accused of physical abuse by a former girlfriend. Plattner's already facing controversy over a Nazi tattoo and a sexting scandal. He spoke to MS Now.
I've been very upfront since the beginning of this campaign that was a pretty dark period of my life after I came back from my combat service, and that's what that kind of life looks like.
Carolyn Downey with the National Review.
This man is a walking scandal machine, and if he survives those scandals, I think what it proves is the Democratic Party is so desperate for power that they will turn a man with the morals and character and integrity of a rattlesnake into a mythical folk hero.
The Maine Senate primary is next Tuesday. Plattner's hoping to unseat the state's 5-term Republican Senator Susan Collins. A 3-judge panel panels considering President Trump's $1 billion White House ballroom project. Here's ABC's Peter Haralambous.
The administration has really framed this as a national security issue. They've pointed to these recent shootings that have happened near President Trump, the one at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, another incident on Pennsylvania Avenue in May, to argue that this ballroom is necessary, that there's no other space where President Trump himself could have big gatherings safely.
Next Monday, Madison Square Garden in New York City, one of the most famous sports arenas in the world, will host its first NBA Finals game since 1999. That was 27 years ago. Lifelong New York Knicks fan President Trump will be in attendance as his hometown team takes on the San Antonio Spurs. It's Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Also in attendance at that game will be New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. The two have no plans to shake hands. AI giant Anthropic is calling for a worldwide pause in the development of artificial intelligence. It says technology is advancing so quickly that systems may start improving themselves without any human intervention.
If the AI doesn't have a moral compass built in, then how do we know how that AI is going to treat us? Nobody knows this yet.
That's Scott Spiro. He's the founder of Humanology AI. And still to come on the Noon Report for a Friday, gestating parents. Fetterman says no, and human trafficking by the numbers.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. It's been a glorious work week weather-wise. The weekend weather, though, not so much. We'll have forecast details in 10.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. We'll see you in about 10 minutes. Let's check the stories making news across New York and Pennsylvania. A Canadian bioethicist will be sharing next week on the dangers of doctor-assisted suicide in New York. Dr. Maura McQueen will be speaking Tuesday night from 6:30 to 8:30 at the American Legion in South Corning. Physician-assisted suicide has been legal for a decade in Canada. New York's Medical Aid in Dying Act will take effect August 5th. A town hall meeting on human trafficking in the age of AI happened last night in Sayre, Pennsylvania. Republican Representative Tina Pickett telling WENY-TV,
even though people don't see it, they're not really aware of what to look for, it is happening.
Wyoming County, Pennsylvania District Attorney Joseph Peters.
It's an uncomfortable issue, but like any other crime, if we pretend it's not there or we don't want to talk about it, then it's just going to overcome us.
Last year, police in Pennsylvania investigated no fewer than 400 crimes related to human trafficking. Say goodbye to mom and dad. New York Democrats are pushing legislation that would force the state to officially adopt the terms gestating parent or non-gestating parent. We're not kidding here. Fox News political analyst Tommy Lahren.
Not only is this a waste of time and of resources, not only is this an insult to mothers and fathers and parents, not only is it preventing people from moving to these blue woke states, but it's actually pushing people out the door into the red states.
GOP gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman calls the gender-neutral legislation, which was approved by the state assembly, a declaration of war on New York families. Governor Hochul hasn't said yet whether she'll sign it into law. Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry wants to ban sex offenders from adoption through surrogacy. The Republican representative says his bill will help cut down on child exploitation. Perry points out that while federal law prohibits sex offenders from adopting children, the rules do not extend to surrogacy. Surrogacy is an arrangement where a woman carries and then gives birth to a child on behalf of another person or couple who become the child's legal parents. Warmer weather brings out the mosquitoes, don't you know? And experts are out today with some tips on how to control these blood-sucking insects. Dr. Christopher Bozzoli is a bug expert at the Cleveland Clinic.
Mosquitoes need standing water, still water to reproduce. So minimizing near where you live or where you're going, trying to minimize any standing water.
Dr. Bozzoli says insect repellent with DEET and eucalyptus oil helps to keep the mosquitoes away. A new type of Lyme disease has been discovered in upstate New York. We get those details details from Family Life's Jeremy Miller.
Yeah, Bob, almost all cases of the tick-borne illness in the U.S. are caused by bacteria called Borrelia burgdorferi, but another rare species called Borrelia mayonii was found in Herkimer County. It's the first time it's been detected outside of Minnesota and Wisconsin. The state health department found a handful of ticks on the infected person's wooded property that tested positive for the bacterium. It's unclear exactly how it made its way to Herkimer County. Jeremy Miller, Family Life News.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. Tick-borne illnesses are on the rise this summer all across the country. The CDC says ER visits for tick bites are the highest they've been in nearly a decade. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman plans to vote no on the confirmation of Todd Blanche as U.S. Attorney General. Fetterman was not pleased with Blanche's efforts to create a nearly $2 billion anti-weaponization fund. That fund was set up by the Trump White House to pay the legal bills of the president's political allies who faced prosecution during the Biden administration. Primary day in New York is Tuesday, June 23rd, and already poll workers are getting ready. A special training session happened yesterday at the Monroe County Board of Elections. Poll worker Darlene Biondolo tells Spectrum News.
I just think that it's our civic duty to make sure that elections are free and fair, and it takes everyone's time and talent to be able to make sure that that happens.
The training seminar included testing out the voting machines to make sure they are in good working order for the primaries. Poll workers are a paid position. You should contact your local board of elections if you are interested. Electricity rates are about to go up again in Pennsylvania for PPL customers. That will amount to about $6.50 more per month beginning July 1st. This is the second rate hike in about a month for PPL customers. And efforts afoot in Albany to ban surveillance pricing all across New York.
With surveillance pricing, prices are assigned to people, not products.
That's New York Attorney General Letitia James. She says surveillance pricing unfairly targets low-income households. Democrats are pushing the One Fair Price Act. It bans companies from using artificial intelligence to determine how much you're willing to pay for a product on the grocery shelf. Erie County, New York has its first measles case in about 10 years. A Western New Yorker testing positive this week after visiting a country where measles is prevalent. That infected individual, we're told, visited multiple locations throughout Erie County, including Golisano Children's Hospital in Buffalo. Western New York's Muslim community is grieving the loss of 4 of their own. Here's Family Life's Dee Haley.
Members of Buffalo's Muslim community gathered yesterday to mourn the loss of a Cheektowaga mother and her 2 children, who authorities say were killed earlier this week by the children's father. Funeral services were held at a mosque on Buffalo's east side. Police say the 3 were killed by Salah Mohammed, who is also accused of fatally shooting a 4th person at a deli in Buffalo's Black Rock neighborhood on the same day. The victim was laid to rest Wednesday following a funeral at a mosque in Lackawanna. Mohammed remains jailed without bail and is expected to appear today in both Cheektowaga Town Court and Buffalo City Court. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
All right, Dee, just a horrible story there in Cheektowaga. Thank you. The Oneida County, New York church where 5 people were injured in a natural gas explosion back in February. That church is now in the process of being torn down. Demolition of the Abundant Life Church is happening about 100 days after the blast in the town of Boonville. Heavy snow over the winter caused the roof of the church to slump, damaging a propane fuel line. That's what sparked the explosion. That congregation has been holding Sunday services ever since at the Adirondack Central High School in Oneida County, New York. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the storm came in a hurry in the game's final 10 minutes. Carolina was down 2-0 to the Vegas Golden Knights, who were about to deliver a knockdown punch and go up 2-0 on the Canes' home ice. Then the storm hit. In the span of 5.5 minutes, Carolina scored 3 goals to take a 3-2 lead. But Vegas was not done. They tied the contest up with $1:21 to play, only to see Seth Jarvis win it in overtime for Carolina. 4-3 the final. This series now tied at 1. To baseball, the Yankees won and the Yankees lost. First, the win. They salvaged the final game of their series with Cleveland earning a 2-1 victory. Ryan McMahon drove in the go-ahead and ultimately the winning run with a single in the bottom of the 7th. New York snaps its 2-game skid. Now the loss, and this really hurts. Aaron Judge has a broken rib. He will be out for a substantial amount of time, but he does plan on being back this season. All right, in Philadelphia, the Phillies have really turned things around. If the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs. Phillies swept San Diego after their 6-4 victory over the Padres. Zach Wheeler, stellar, only allowed 2 hits over 7 innings. Actually had a no-no into the 6th. Adolis Garcia hit his first home run in nearly a month to lead Philadelphia. Ryan O'Hearn went 3 for 4 with a home run and drove in 3 to lead the Pirates over the Astros 5-1. The Bucs' Jared Jones tossed 5 scoreless innings to get the win. Elsewhere in an abbreviated slate, the Orioles, Royals, Giants, D-backs, Blue Jays, and Cubs all won their games. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy. Still to come on the Noon Report, summer sizzle to start your weekend, the Capital Connection crew. And it's National Donut Day, don't you know?
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. 20 years ago, Al Gore released the documentary An Inconvenient Truth. After premiering to a standing ovation at Sundance and earning $25 million at the box office, it earned an Oscar for Best Documentary. Well, today, 20 years later, Gore still stands behind the film. Quote, "From my perspective, the movie's even more relevant today than when it first came out," he recently stated at an anniversary ceremony for the film, adding that global warming is not yet solved. And Gore's primary claims today are the same as they were a generation ago, that climate change is happening, that it is human-caused, and that it presents an existential threat to the human race. Unless the nations of the world took immediate and drastic steps to alter economic and political structures, he argued then, the runaway effects of warming would doom us all. In the documentary, Gore evoked a line from Mark Twain, saying, quote, "What gets us into trouble is not what we don't know. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so." In other words, the world was not too big for humanity to mess up as so many believed. Maybe that was true at one time, he said, but it's not anymore. An Inconvenient Truth is the most consequential documentary of the last half-century. Gore's prophecies had a profound impact on Western culture, from Hollywood to D.C. to the sciences, even the humanities in most universities. And for quite a while, to even question his claims was the same as being a flat earther. Well, not so much anymore. A recent article in National Review outlined Gore's failed prophecies. He promised, and I quote, "a world besieged by floods, droughts, storms, wildfires," wrote author Bjorn Lomborg. The data, however, tell a different story. Over the past century, as the global population quadrupled, deaths from climate-related disasters have plummeted, end quote. According to Lomborg, Gore was wrong about the catastrophic rise of sea levels, the cause of shrinking glaciers, extreme weather events, and the polar bear population. Even left-wing journal Slate published critiques for Gore, saying, quote, "Considering the multiple times Gore has given his greenhouse slideshow," he says thousands, "it's jarring that the movie was not scrubbed for factual precision," end quote. Also, as Cornwall Alliance founder and president E. Calvin Beisner has argued, the widely believed and repeated assertion that all scientists agree with Gore's version of climate change has never been true and is simply not so today. An Inconvenient Truth was always more philosophy than it was science. Gore over-catastrophized his facts and figures in terms that did not allow for dissent. He was right to claim that ultimately this is not really a political issue so much as a moral issue, but in fact, to be more precise, it was always a worldview issue. Specifically, what we believe about the kind of world we live in and our place within it. If, as naturalistic worldviews demand, there's no God overseeing and superintending the flow of history, We're all here by accident. An Inconvenient Truth described a world that was on the precipice of a disaster that we caused and probably really couldn't fix. The Christian vision is that we aren't alone and we're not ultimately in charge. We're responsible. We're valuable creatures created to meaningfully care for the rest of creation. In other words, between the Bible and Gore's film is all the difference in the world. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you for that. Let's head outside next. It's Weather Where You Live with meteorologist Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for this afternoon. Fair amount of sunshine and warm. High temperatures in the 80s, cooler near the immediate shores of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. For tonight, a balmy night, partly cloudy. During the late night hours, there could be a shower or thundershower in western New York, low temps 60s. Variably cloudy tomorrow, a couple of showers and thunderstorms in the area. It will be a humid day as well, highs in the 80s. And then on Sunday, a bit less humid, clouds, some sun, just a shower or two around. High temperatures mid-70s to the middle 80s.
All right, great work, Kevin. As always, thank you. It's Friday, folks. Congratulations. You've made it. And this is the Noon Report on Family Life. This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Gear with the Pennsylvania Family Institute. It's the fastest 10 minutes in radio, so gentlemen, start your engines. Here we go. Jason, I'll begin with you as the dust starts to settle from this recent $268 or $269 billion budget. I don't know which one it is, but it's about $14 billion more than last year. A lot of folks are wondering how much political capital did this buy for Governor Hochul as she seeks re-election this fall?
Well, there's a number of things going on in this budget. One, I think the governor has spent a lot of political capital with the legislature. Her leverage is clearly in the budget process, and she has used that leverage to accomplish some of her legislative goals. So she spent the capital with the legislature, but she did invest some political capital for the upcoming election. There were some things I think will be popular in this budget. For example, there will be what's being called a utility rebate check that's coming back to people across the state. You can anticipate, if you are a taxpayer in New York, getting somewhere between $100 to $200 in a check with the governor's signature on it just before the election. That will likely buy her some political capital heading into the general election.
Yeah. Michael, it is budget season in Harrisburg. Lawmakers returning from a month-long break to finish work on the budget. They haven't passed an on-time budget in several years. A lot of folks are saying it's not going to happen this year either. What are the issues that are dominating those budget talks in Harrisburg?
Yeah, the budget last year didn't get resolved until November, even though the constitutional deadline is June 30th. This year, the talks are pitting Democrat Governor Shapiro's budget, which increases taxes and spending, versus the Republican Senate's push for more fiscal restraint. Shapiro is looking for more money for his spending boosts through legalizing and then taxing the commercial sale of marijuana. We oppose that strongly and don't think it's going to happen. That's a perennial fight these days. And then he's looking to regulate and tax further gambling expansions, especially so-called skill games found at convenience stores, tobacco and vaping shops. Yeah. The spending increases that Shapiro is proposing will send Pennsylvania into an impending fiscal cliff.
One of the last items of business that the state legislature took up this session, Jason, was this thorny issue of mid-decade redistricting. It's not going to affect the elections this fall, but it could affect the 2028 presidential election. What are Democrats concocting in Albany when it comes to gerrymandering?
Yeah, essentially, I think they're taking the gloves off. And, not that New York hasn't always gerrymandered its districts. It has. In fact, the voters in a previous referendum at the ballot box said they didn't want that. They wanted independent redistricting. This time, though, the Democratic majorities in Albany, including Governor Kathy Hochul and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, they're all opting to try to move a severe gerrymandering of New York's districts by removing independent redistricting and allowing the Democrats to gerrymander the districts to their favor in what may be the 2028 election. It will have have to pass 2 successive legislatures and the vote of the people before it could be implemented. And so we got some time on this before it heads to the ballot referendum, but it is just a naked and raw power grab that the Democrats are engaging in here in the Empire State.
Well, one of the issues in Pennsylvania this week, Michael, was a state bell-to-bell cell phone ban at school. New York already has this sort of policy at school. The governor says he'll sign it once it reaches his desk. May not be much longer before that happens. What does the Pennsylvania Family Institute think of this effort to restrict digital distractions in the classroom?
Well, I'm going to harken back to my days in the classroom. We didn't have cell phones, so that may shock people that I'm that old, but I did okay. But we do support this legislation, and for common sense reasons, and in recognition of the studies that show that cell phones in classes hinder academic performance. I mean, right off the bat, we know that smartphones are a distraction and consistently vie for our attention. All of us experience that, and that's not a good thing in the classroom when the heads should be turned in the direction of the teacher and not to a screen. And then studies are showing that one of those studies examined schools in the United Kingdom and England where phones were prohibited, and it found that test scores improved after the bans were put in place, and it was the lower performing students that saw the greatest benefit from the cell phone school ban. So I think it just makes sense, and we're glad this legislation is moving forward.
We'll talk a little bit more about technology and the role it plays in our lives a bit later. Mike, I know you got a big event coming up. We'll tease that. But first, Jason, Primary Day is fast approaching, just a little bit over 2 weeks away now. Mark your calendar. I know a lot of folks are watching races in California and some of the big states. Any in New York in particular that New York Families is keeping a close eye on?
A lot of the attention is on the Democratic primaries in the New York City area because largely who wins the Democratic primary will become the candidate and likely win the election in November. There is a Republican congressional primary just outside the Capital Region, heading a bit into the North Country area, pitting current sitting Assemblyman Robert Smullen against a challenger, Anthony Constantino. That's been a bitter race, and that will be a Republican primary out there we're watching. In the Buffalo area, though, you're looking at state Senate primaries. You've got a couple of gentlemen there that are running to represent the seats that was held by now the man who is the mayor of Buffalo, and so there's some attention on that race to see who can emerge to carry the Democratic banner in that particular race. So there are not a lot of primaries on the Republican side, but likely the Democrat primaries may decide the candidates that we'll be dealing with next January.
All right. And Michael, your group hosted a rally this week, I think back on Monday, talking about the important role that pregnancy care centers play in the community. I was struck by the millions of dollars in services provided, whether it's ultrasounds or prenatal care, but such a critical component to maternal health, these PRCs, pregnancy resource centers. If you would explain a little bit more about why it matters so much that we support our pregnancy care centers.
I'm glad to take that opportunity. We were very glad to partner with the Pennsylvania Pregnancy Wellness Collaborative, which is a group of pregnancy resource centers all across the state, in hosting this event at the Capitol as we seek to serve the pregnancy resource centers that are on the front lines in the fight for the sanctity of life. These centers, Bob, provide the kind of guidance and resources that pregnant women need, both during the pregnancy and after they give birth, many providing sonograms and medical guidance for a safe pregnancy, counseling and resources to meet the real physical and emotional needs during this time, and most importantly, a pathway to hope and a future for the baby, both inside the womb and after birth, and to its mother, which is the opposite of the death-dealing organizations like Planned Parenthood offer under the fake guise of helping women.
Yeah, I think there's something like 87 pregnancy care centers across the Commonwealth, so if there's one where you live, please support that vital effort on the front lines of maternal health care. And then, Jason, could not believe, maybe it's not shocking anymore because of how prevalent AI is in our lives, but nearly 20% of young adults admit that they use AI chatbots for mental health advice. What sort of red flags does that raise, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, one of the problems with the chatbots or the AI-enabled devices is they tend to take on the personality of the user. So if there is a user who is already suffering from suicidal tendencies or depression, the chatbot will eventually then feed back some of that in kind of a loop back to the user. So there's a concern there. There have been a number of cases where we've seen some dangerous things that have come as a result of that. In the legislature this week, the Assembly was passing a bill that would ban chatbot-enabled toys until we can figure out exactly how to handle these and move forward. And so we wouldn't be handing these furry animals into kids' hands that will then just loop them into some negative thought patterns and could negatively impact impact them.
Yeah, and that leads us to the final issue, Michael. You're hosting a webinar this month, severely needed webinar, on digital discernment and how to raise children in the age of AI. What do you hope people will come away with by attending this webinar later this month?
Well, we're really excited to be hosting this webinar on the evening of June 16th. We're hosting our friends from the organization Protect Young Eyes, and that organization's title gives an indication of what we're aiming for with this webinar, which is that parents and teens and children will gain the skills to navigate the treacherous waters of the online world, whether it's pornography and violence online, the lure of internet gambling and sports betting, or the rapidly expanding world of AI chatbots like you and Jason just talked about, and the access to harmful materials delivered into our homes via smartphones, tablets, and computers. So we have lots of folks that have already signed up for the webinar at pafamily.org/protectyoungeyes, and that, to me, shows there's a very strong appetite for help in this area, and we're hoping to provide it.
All right, that's all the time we have this week, but if you want to attend that webinar, 7 p.m. Tuesday night, June 16th. Again, Michael, what's the website where folks can sign up?
pafamily.org.
And stay informed on all the issues in New York. Jason, you have a wonderful website where folks can learn more about the great work going on at New York Families. What is that, if you would?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Capital Connection airs Fridays during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and FamilyLife.org. And finally at noon for a Friday.
Donuts.
Yeah, time to make the donuts and time to eat the donuts. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
Today is National Donut Day, marking a tradition that dates back to 1938. The observance was created by the Salvation Army to honor the Donut Lassies, volunteers who served fresh donuts to American soldiers during World War I. Today, bakeries and donut shops nationwide are offering special deals and freebies as Americans enjoy one of the country's favorite sweet treats. Whether you prefer glazed, powdered, jelly-filled, or sprinkled, there's no shortage of ways to celebrate. And if you decide to have more than one donut today, it's okay. We're all supposed to have a well-rounded diet. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, Brian, some are more well-rounded than others, afraid to say. Thank you kindly, friend. And that's our world, the world we live in. Friday, the 5th day of June. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.